welcome to Level 20 Sports Line. We've got a very big show for you tonight. We've even got a couple extra people on the panel, got a couple of beautiful guests, and full house here at the Level 20 Lounge. Come on down every Monday, except the second Monday of every month, and see us here. I'm Mike Migliori. I'm here with Smokin' Jim Frazier, Claudio Rosano, Chip Hayner, Mike Butera, and Al Levine. We're going to start out like we usually do with our segment, What's on Your Mind? Al, what's on your mind?
Well, this is so apropos, Mike. I don't know if Eric can get this, but I got one of my vitamin magazines today, and it says, What's on your mind? And it's actually a perfect segue into, look at all this stuff. Bodybuilding, your health, you name it. You don't have to pull in on this stuff. So here's Lance Armstrong. All these years, everybody goes into his refrigerator. They eat, drink the same things. He's the only guy, and now he's done a lot of good deeds. I don't bum rap him on that. But he's the only guy that doesn't get convicted till after he wins 7 races and after he retires for years. So I don't understand the story, but you guys can get HGH precursors. You can get actually steroids. You name it, from Germany, creatine, everything else here. So how could somebody who's in sports looking for an edge misconstrue what they're taking? To me, it's unreal. It shows that there is corruption throughout our society, throughout sports. You want all these guys to be heroes? We're all imperfect people, so why judge him now? Why did they come after him now when he saved tons of people with cancer and everything else? He has that Live Strong and everything else. What's going to happen there? Why do it now? Who did he offend at this time? And that's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Al. Mike, what's on your mind?
Thank you, Mike. This is very similar, and I think what Mike had provided information on Lance Armstrong is an indictment on Lance Armstrong. The fact that he said that I'm throwing my hands into this jazz, I'm quitting fighting, that tells me that he, in fact, was guilty of that. So be it, similar but different. The past couple weeks we've had the Armstrong incident. We've had, and I'm a baseball guy, quit sticking your tongue out at me. Past couple weeks there's been 2 Major League Baseball players who were tested positive for steroids. And every time that you hear that, then the other players or owners, et cetera, they start talking about, well, we're cleaning it up, but in fact they're not. And the reason why they're not cleaning up, in my estimation, is because of the players' union. And I have information here which I'm not going to bore you with, but if a union in fact exists, there's 30 Major League ball teams. If every ball team were to get together, the players, whether it's a majority, it has to be a majority, would go to the players' union and say, we want 100% no nonsense in this sport. Nothing, no steroids, no supplements, whatever. That sport could become clean. And I guess that's all I have to say at this moment.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you,
Chip, what's on your mind today?
What's on my mind kind of dovetails out from what
Big Mike.
Big Mike said next to me, and this is what the problem is with the drug testing program and the positive tests with these athletes. Just recently had 2 Major League players. They tested positive. They got 50-game suspensions. The penalty system is a joke, and it is no deterrent to stopping these guys from cheating. And you look at where the San Francisco Giants are right now. They're 2 games ahead of the Dodgers, but they got there on the back of Melky Cabrera's hitting, which he was doing while he was juicing, which was illegal. So if you want to really make a penalty that would have real effect, penalize the team, okay? Because we're seeing here that they're taking titles away from Lance Armstrong that he won 10 years ago for juicing. They took wins away from Joe Paterno. They vacate wins in college football and college basketball. Why do these teams continue to let this happen? Because there is no penalty for the teams. If the A's were penalized for the losses, for the wins that they had when Bartolo Colon pitched, that's 10 wins that they lose. If you look at the number of losses that the San Francisco Giants would have because of what Cabrera did, then they're no longer a contender. And then all of a sudden the teams are accountable for the way their players act. And I think that would be a much better way of policing this kind of stuff. But that's what's on my mind.
Awesome, pal.
Thanks, Chip. Claudio, what's on your mind?
Am I getting paid for this?
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right.
In fact, it costs $1.50 for that water. So.
Okay. Well, these guys are talking about bicycling and baseball. I'm going to talk about a much cleaner sport. Even though I work in baseball, I'm talking about boxing, which is not a clean sport. But, years ago, I'll be 48 in October, and I was very lucky to grow up in the era of the Larry Holmes and the Muhammad Ali's and the Boom Boom Mancinis, Vinny Pazienzas, and the Ken Nortons, and I can go on and on, Roberto Duran's, and Sugar Ray Leonard's. Who do we have now besides everybody's looking for the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight? And outside of that, what else is left after that? So maybe that fight shouldn't happen. This way we can still keep chasing that carrot and hoping that we get to see that fight. But unfortunately, I mean, I grew up in a family that loved boxing, and unfortunately it's really going down the drain. The Olympics is bad as far as American fighters. The fighters out there today, nobody knows who the champions are. There's too many champions. And I think pay-per-view caused a lot of that with the enormous $65 to $85 a pop for pay-per-views. CBS, NBC, ABC are no longer carrying the good fights. I don't think they're carrying the fights at all anymore. Years ago, it used to be NBC Sports World, ABC Wide World of Sports, Friday night fights. But you knew who these guys were. For example, I always use this as an example real quick. ABC, obviously, with Muhammad Ali, they promoted him and Cosell. Then it became Larry Holmes and Sugar Ray Leonard. NBC used to promote an Italian kid from Providence, Rhode Island, Vinny Pazienza. Then CBS, notice I'm always angling with the Italian guys. But CBS promoted the heck out of a guy who wanted to win the title for his father from Youngstown, Ohio, Boom Boom Mancini. So there was a following. Now nobody knows who anybody is, and unfortunately the sport is going down the drain. I don't blame what the hell's it called again? The cage fighting. MMA. I'm even forget what that's called. It's not MMA. I don't blame MMA. I just think boxing itself is hurting itself with bad decisions, bad fights, no personalities, and unfortunately, I think it's going down the drain. That's it.
Thanks, Claudio.
When do I get my paycheck?
Smoking Jim, what's on your mind this week?
Hey, I wanted to send out a quick shout out to my good friend who's going to be a guest pretty soon up here with us, Miss Robin Allen. Robin is actually a boxing commentator, one of the few female boxing commentators on the planet. And I always say that anything a man can do, a woman can do better.
You didn't say that last week, Smoking Joe.
And she's also going to talk briefly for us about the Olympics. And here's a tip about Miss Robin. She got better ab muscles than Lolo Jones, and I'm an ab man. Hey, I feel like a winner today. I feel like a winner because I have just as many bicycle race wins as Lance Armstrong. Hey, listen, everybody's going to get mad at me right now. Everybody's going to get mad at me because I'm going against the Penguins. I'm predicting on Saturday that Pitt will destroy the Youngstown State Penguins. Hey, Pitt, where's your pride? Where is your pride? You open up against the Youngstown State Penguins, and then in Game 4, you're playing a team called Garner-Webb. Garner-Webb, hey, listen, Governor, step in and make Pitt and Penn State play each other each and every year. And lastly, Dallas Cowboys is no longer America's team. That goes to the New York Jets and Tim Tebow. But I don't like Dallas anymore for the things that they're doing to their star wide receiver, Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant is 22 years old, and Dallas is making this guy have a 12 o'clock curfew. They're making their star wide receiver, they assign 3 security guards that's going to rotate in 24 hours a day on him. And here's the injustice. He can no longer, the rest of his life, go to a nightclub. He can no longer, the rest of his life, go to a strip club. Listen, there's a strip club on every corner in Dallas. I don't know any young man in Dallas that can stay away from strip clubs. Just ask Hines Ward. Hines Ward, the leader of the wideouts of the Steelers, led the wideouts and all the Steeler players to the strip clubs, and that's why they lost the Super Bowl. Hey, Dallas, let Dez Bryant make it rain. Let him make it thunderstorm, just like the Steelers did at the Super Bowl.
Hallelujah. Thanks, Jim.
And you're just getting started.
Well, at least he won't be like, I don't know, stabbing somebody to death before the Super Bowl or raping some girl in the bathroom. Maybe this kid will be able to keep clean for a while. I don't blame Dallas for locking him up. Now, I got to tell you, what was on my mind was that Neil Armstrong died, first man to step on the moon. And while it's not exactly sports related, I think back to when he actually did that and think what courage it had to take to step out of that space capsule onto the moon, not knowing if you were ever going to come back again, not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing if that thing would ever lift off and get you back home. And you have to congratulate Neil and all the other astronauts that did that. But having listened to all the commentary already today, I got one more thing that's on my mind. Yeah, okay, they stripped Lance Armstrong's 7 titles. They stripped Joe Paterno's 111 wins. Well, who won those things if they didn't? Okay? Everybody knows no matter what, they stripped away Joe Paterno's 111 wins. Everybody knows that Joe Paterno is the winningest coach in college football history. What, now they're going to say Bobby Bowden is because they took away 111 wins from somebody else? Everybody knows that Lance Armstrong won 7 Tour de France, no matter how many titles they say they're going to take away from him. Everybody knows that they won it. These guys won those things. And let me tell you something else. If anybody ever tells you that this isn't the greatest sports talk tandem in the history of the world, well, you know they're full of... You know that's not true either, because you see it every day, every Monday from the Level 20 Sports Line, every Tuesday from Pittsburgh Sports Line, and once Wednesday every month on Steel City Sports. Well, we're the best there is, the best there ever was, and well, probably the best it ever will be. So.
There you go, Mike.
All right, well, I guess unfortunately we have to talk about the Pirates. I'll tell you what, not only are they not going to make the playoffs, they are going to be very lucky if they finish over 500. This team has totally gone in a downward spiral. We've got some pretty good baseball people up here. We'll start, as usual, with Chip Hayner. Chip's our usual sports or baseball expert, but we've got Claudio Rosano and Mike Butera, who also know a little bit about baseball, to talk about it. And well, Claudio can tell you the same thing that I told you at the beginning of the season, that the Pirates destroyed Pedro Alvarez. Anyway, Chip, what do you think?
You know, they're on a downward spiral right now. There's no question about that. They've lost 13 of their last 19 games and kind of fallen out of contention for that wild card spot. And, you know, the pitching that got them to where they were in June and July is kind of failing them now. It seems like they can't get out of the first couple of innings with even or even ahead. They, you know, James McDonald can't seem to get out of the first inning without giving up 3 or 4 runs, and he hasn't done that since the beginning of July. You know, they just bad decisions being made at the plate. I'm watching batter after batter look at called strike threes, which is becoming epidemic at this point. You know, right now, you know, looking at the way that we defend against stolen bases. I mean, I don't think our catcher has thrown out a runner yet. I haven't seen it happen yet. I was at the game.
I think they did it a few times this year.
It must have been when I blinked. I was at the game Friday night, and I watched a guy take a 20-foot lead off of second base and steal third, and it wasn't even a close play.
Yeah, but don't you blame the pitchers a little bit?
You got to blame everybody for that. That's the pitcher's fault. It's the catcher's fault. I mean, you know, the players in the infield need to tell the pitcher that somebody's running. But there's a number of problems that the Pirates are having. But you know, these are problems that can all be fixed. You know, right now, the next month, we're going to find out if this team is even playoff caliber. You know, they still have a chance to make their way into the playoffs, but they've got to play the kind of ball that they were playing in June and July.
You know, let me interject for a second here. It seems kind of strange that the guy who bet $1 that the Pirates would not make 500 against the guy who bet that the Pirates would are now arguing with each other, while the guy who bet they would is saying how bad they are, and the other guy is defending them.
For a minute, you have to take off. For a minute, you got to take off the rose-colored glasses.
I got to interject on that interjection here.
Being
I'm
the
a Pirate
optimist
fan, and I do like the Pirates. I'm not happy with the ownership. It's one of the worst in the business to just be a carpetbagger and take 12 to 20 million a year and not improve it. They even changed the minor league rules because it's a pirate rule. You don't keep investing in the minor leagues, spend it in the pros. Part of my problem,
A lot of people don't know that too. That's a good point. Excellent
I've said
point.
it a few times on the show. I'm not
Excellent.
a baseball expert. I'm just a fan here. I like
Excellent
talking
point.
sports. And the reason why I'm a little bit against Chip is the stat the other day is 95 runs were scored in the first inning for the other team, 59 by the Pirates. It's only a matter of time, like Bob Prince taught us over the years. That hidden vigorish catches up with you. So this is what's happening right now. Now you'll find out about the character of the players and the coach on what they do under pressure. We had a couple discussions like how many games that Hurdle actually cost him. In the last 2 weeks, maybe 4 games with his decision making. How many did he win in the previous months? That's one of the problems. So I was hopeful that his gut instinct would help them to win. But I'm mistaken on it. My dollar's still in my pocket, Chip,
and
because I don't trust what they're going to do.
I haven't
It looks
spent
like
it
a
yet,
great
Alan.
Here's the
collapse.
bottom line of the whole thing. First of all, I think it's great that they've done as well as they've done. I think it's been great for the Pirate fans and the
absolutely.
restaurants by them. I had to go to the PNC Park the other day. The place was packed, so it's good for them. But baseball is the one sport that you can't hide. In football, you can get hot, make the playoffs, and anything can happen. Hockey, look at the Kings. Okay, baseball, the team who won, you're going to end up playing about 180 some odd games. You're going to know who the best team is, period. They did get off to a great start, but I liken it to this. Let's say that me and Smoke and Jim are tennis players. Let's say we're terrible tennis players, but we're playing against each other. Somebody's got to win, okay?
Not with you two.
Well, but somebody's got to win.
I'll take the bet.
The National League is horrendous. It has been the first half of the season. Now it's picking up. Cincinnati's been doing well. St. Louis has been on a good run. San Diego's even picked it up a little bit. So the Pirates got hot at the right time. But now, as they say, the cream starts to rise. Like in boxing, years ago it was the 15-round fights. They said that the championship rounds were the 13th, 14th, and 15th round. Now August are the championship months. I just don't see them being. I think it's great that they've done as well as they do. I hope they go 162-0, but I just don't see them being that good. And like you said, Chip, about taking the rose-colored glasses off. And I think it's after 19 years, you do get somewhat rose-colored glassed. If that's a proper term, but again, they're just not good enough. The pitching isn't good enough. The hitting is atrocious. I mean, if you look at, I'm not going to get into some things, philosophies. I'm not real crazy about a lot of the philosophies that they teach. They probably wouldn't be crazy about mine, although mine are good. Having said that, just on the way here, I heard some different things. Their theories, the things that I teach. I'm head coach at Carnegie Mellon University, been coaching 29 years, been scouting professionally now for 12 years. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to hitting. Okay, a lot of these guys, even though they're professional baseball coaches, they're not that. I'm not going to name names or different teams or what have you. But just because you're a professional baseball coach does not mean that you are the best hitting coach or pitching coach out there. What do you call a guy who graduated last in law school? You call him an attorney. What do you call a guy who graduated last in med school? You call him a doctor. So let's not get caught up in that. Unfortunately, I think if they do finish over 500, I think it's going to be 2-3 games over 500. I'm not hoping this. I hope that they somehow win a division. But I just don't see it. And real quick, not to get off the subject too much about the Pirates, when the All-Star game happened this year, 2012 Major League Baseball All-Star game, as soon as it was over, I turned on the 1979 All-Star game. And the difference between the players of then and now is totally ridiculous. It is so – the players are bigger now, okay, but they're nowhere near as skilled, in my opinion. The arms aren't there. The pitchers aren't there. The names aren't there. The personalities aren't there. The flair, the color isn't there. Maybe I'm being an old school guy, and that's fine, but I'm going into it open-minded, and I see such a difference in the game, maybe in all sports, but especially baseball. There's no Parkers. There's no George Bretts. There's no Nolan Ryans. There's, I don't know, A.J. Burnett. It's good. He's having a great season, but I just think that the game is changing. Back to the Pirates. Unfortunately, they've had a good run. Baseball is it's a marathon, not a sprint. If it was football, they'd be in the playoffs, but it's not football. And I hope they do well, but I'm not counting on it.
No, and I agree with you. There are some things. The 162 game season is going to expose your flaws, and there are flaws that are being exposed right now with the Pirates. Managers made some bad decisions. Friday night I'm at the game. And, we've got Wandy Rodriguez is pitching a nice game. He's got 2 outs in the 7th inning. And he's got a runner on first. They pull him. For what reason, I don't know. And they put in...
I don't mean to interrupt you. That is a big problem with me. Because, and you're right, if he's pitching good, leave him in there.
Well, they put in Jared Hughes. He hits the first batter, walks the next 2.
That's it.
And I'm sitting there saying to the guy next to me, I'm like, he's a sinker ball pitcher. And when the sinker ball doesn't sink, it goes a long way. What did the next guy do? Banged it off the wall, 3 runs across the plate.
He had too much rest. A sinker ball pitcher's pitch stays in the air too long when he has too much rest. But these guys anymore, I don't mean to interrupt you, these guys are more specialists. Years ago, like the 79 All-Star game, midway through the season, Nolan Ryan had 14 complete games.
Yeah.
Joaquin Andújar was a BC level pitcher. He pitched in 34 games, 7 complete games.
Yeah.
Now, as soon as they throw 108 pitches, man, that's it. Like they're going to shut down Strasburger in Washington?
Yeah, if they do that, Washington's not going to have a chance. Let them pitch.
In addition to having pulled Rodriguez out when he was pitching okay, maybe that happens. But then he turns around and leaves another player in yesterday and watches him give up 6 runs before he decides maybe it's time to get him out there. This Clint Hurdle is the reason. He's not the manager of the year because he made the Pirates good. He's the reason the Pirates are not going to make the playoffs. And Al, it's good you brought up Bob Prince because their chances of making the playoffs are as dead as he is. But there's no chance that the Pirates are going to make the playoffs this year. And I will not be surprised at all if they finish under 500.
The same mistake that Hurdle made Friday night by leaving Hughes in so long. Renicky did the same thing the next night when he left the Brewers pitcher in there, and they let the Pirates tattoo them for 4 runs. So it's like these guys go by their gut instincts, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But
Well, you know what though? It might not be their gut instinct. They do go by certain pitches. Sometimes they do, obviously. But like I said, as soon as they hit 100 pitches. Like years ago, La Russa started going 6-7 innings, bringing in a setup, and then bringing in the hammer Dennis Eckersley. Now, if you have those kind of tools, like later on, Torrey had it with the Yankees, with Mariano Rivera setting up Wetland, and then he had Gene Nelson and all those guys setting up, not Gene Nelson, Jeff Nelson setting up Rivera. If you have the horses, go ahead and do it. If your starters are better than your bullpen, leave them. If the guy is pitching good, leave him in there. Now they have something called quality start. I think it's 6 1/3 innings. If you give up 4 runs in the 70s and 80s, that would have caused you a demotion.
There used to be a thing like some pitchers. Actually, the longer they pitch, the better that they get. When their arm gets tired, the ball moves more in the 2 or 3 feet by the plate. You'll get a little bit of wiggle on it, and that's one of my big complaints about baseball in general is the pitch count. I mean, they should let pitchers pitch. If you can't pitch a 9-inning game, then what do you do?
And now, like Hanrahan can't throw more than 30 pitches. He can't pitch 2-3 games in a row, whatever the case. How about guys years ago like the Tekulves and the Raleigh Fingers? They used to pitch 3 innings to earn the save.
But Satchel Paige used to pitch double headers.
Wilbur Wood used to do that. A lot of guys did.
And the guys pitch a triple header. Now, why don't we let Mike talk about baseball a little bit, you two? The marathon's over. Let Big Mike in the game.
Well, I'd like to, Claudio, if you don't mind, I'd like to interrupt you.
That's all right.
Interject again.
Yeah, interjection. But here's an interesting, call it what you will. The machine and I are sitting close to one another, almost like joined at the hip. Well, we're close, you know what I mean? So what he started talking about a moment ago was pirate management, which is a very sore spot with me. And here's where I'd like to take it. In spite of the fact that I'm a chemist, I don't know what chemistry on a ball team actually means. Because if it meant something, then the Pirates at their high point, were they close to 20 games over 500? They were close to
like 19.
19, 20, 210,
You're a
220,
chemist,
whatever.
You got to be exact.
I'm not good with numbers, but the point is that when they were doing that well, how many players did they bring into that team that had to supplant somebody who was already there? I mean, what's that guy's name? The one pitcher that said he was a reliever, then he became a starter. Yeah, and then they brought in a pitcher to take his place. He got hacked off. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Again, chemistry. If there's such a thing, pirate management destroyed it. And if you really want to hear my opinion about pirate management, this would be the Big Mike Butera show. I'll end it like that. Thank you for letting me interject. Smoke.
What is your opinion?
Thanks, guys.
On the pirate management?
Yeah, let us know.
I'll tell you what my opinion is. I used to attend as many as 54 pirate games a year.
Wow.
10 years ago, I got disgusted with with what I thought the Pirate management isn't. And consequently, I have a 20-game package for 10 years to Yankee Stadium. Now, I don't want to hear any boos or yays. That's just, I want to go see baseball and somebody that's interested in putting a good team on a field to try to win. Well, just like the machine said a moment ago, I don't want to say his name, Claudio, like you don't want to say names. We don't want to name names.
Give us a hint.
It would start with what's the guy's name? The owner, Nuthead Nutting or something like that. And they, Nutting, yeah, Nutting, and Neil hunting for a job, whatever his name is. These guys, I'm sorry, man. And look.
What about Kunalita?
Yes. What about that guy? Who is that guy? What about that guy? The Pirate management is only interested in, as you said, Machine. What was your comment?
It's an economic thing.
Exactly. I mean, come on.
Dollars and cents.
Come on. I think, Mike, if you allow me, I think I could do a better job as the Pirate general manager. That's what I think. Of course, I don't know what you think, but that's what I think. I'm really, really hot to trot on mismanagement and non-ownership that we have here in Pittsburgh. Right. If you want my, I'm sorry, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, hey.
Welcome aboard.
Hey.
Thanks.
Don't interrupt, but go ahead.
We have to
aboard.
bring up our first guest here.
Nice.
Thanks, guys. We've got, like I said, we had a couple of beautiful young guests tonight, and we'd like to bring up the first, Miss Michelle Barabbas.
Thank you very
Hi,
much.
Michelle. Welcome aboard. You come on. You're going to tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the event you have coming up.
Absolutely. I currently run an arts showcasing organization, so I represent artists of all media from across the United States, and I help them connect with work in other places. My entire company, all of the funding goes into our youth art program, where we're replacing the disappearing art education in Pittsburgh public schools. Currently, we're working on a festival that's going to be held in Market Square, September 28th and 29th, and it will be an interactive arts festival. People will be teaching their art, creating it, and getting the public involved, and it's completely free, and it's a large-scale fundraiser to raise money to replace all of the arts education that's disappearing.
Thank you. And you said that you represent some artists?
Yes. The company I work for, I'm the founder and CEO of the Art Resource Teaching Society. So I represent 131 quality-controlled artists of all media from across the United States. We have everything from visual artists to performing artists, entertainment artists, as well as writers and speakers. So a little bit of everybody.
All right. Well, a little bit of everybody. You wouldn't happen to have a shortstop that can hit and a couple of offensive linemen, could you?
No, but on that note, I used to work for the Pirates, and it is dollars and cents. I agree 1,000%.
And I wanted to tell people here that I met Michelle a little while ago, and she's going to be one of our huggers at the Hug-a-thon on Pittsburgh. Since we're talking different fundraising and everything else, September 6th, you'll see Michelle Barabbas and others, a lot of media people, and some old-time Steelers will be there. Some Pittsburgh Passion people will be there, and you know I'm helping to do fundraising for 4 charities with that. So September 6th, be downtown, Katz Plaza, City County Building, and under Macy's Clock. If you don't know Macy's Clock, it was Kaufman's Clock. So make sure you're down there, and you can do some hugging. No kissing under the clocks.
And the only place they changed the name of the clock?
Yeah,
That's like sacrilegious.
it was, and even the building they changed the name of it. What happened to Kaufman's? But Michelle, thanks for coming to our show too. And if
I
you have
appreciate
anything
the
else to
opportunity.
add,
Yeah, do you
tell
have
Mike,
anything
because
more
there's
to
a
talk about?
filmmaker you wanted to meet.
Absolutely. If there are any artists out there that are looking to connect with work that feel that their portfolios are phenomenal, feel free to email me a link to your portfolio at pg13magazine@yahoo.com.
You want to say that again?
pg13magazine@yahoo.com.
Thank you.
And anything beyond that, we're also looking for anybody looking to fundraise. We provide artwork at no cost for charity organizations to raise more money for their causes. So anybody interested in that service, please feel free to contact me. Same email address.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you. All right. Well, we've handled the Pirates. I guess it's obligatory that we have to talk about the Steelers.
11-5. 11-5 this year.
If they play Buffalo every week.
I'm hoping. Vince Young's gone though.
Jim, what happened?
You know what? It's going to be a nightmare. We were saying 8-8 coming into the season, As you guys know, and was very aware, when I was with the Steelers during the draft, I said that the offensive lineman that they drafted in the second round, Mike Adams, was soft. He's proven to be a Dairy Queen swirl. But I did not want Buzz Lightyear in the first round. The offensive lineman from Stanford was tough, but I thought in my draft report I had him as a center. I told the Pittsburgh Steelers if they watched the bowl game against Virginia Tech that the Virginia Tech had a bum defensive lineman named Graves that bull rushed him all the way into the end zone, sacked Luck for a safety. I did not feel that he could hold up under the huge Samoan from the Ravens and the 380-pound Cody for the Ravens. I thought he would be a mismatch. He got totally collapsed against Buffalo, unfortunately. I also don't like West Coast guys coming to the East Coast. That's a whole different thing. You're not playing in the Rose Bowl. You're playing in a bad stadium. So, unfortunately, DeCastro's out for the year. He got one of the worst knee injuries you can ever have. The Pittsburgh Steelers now, again, will have the worst offensive line in National Football League history. Fortunately for them, they got the greatest quarterback in their history, Big Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben's going to have a great season. I think they got the best tandem of receivers they've had since Lynn Swann and John Stallworth and Antonio Brown, who was my draft pick, and Mike Wallace, who's signing his contract today. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, like I predicted weeks ago, they're going to be fighting to go 8-8 this year.
Did Wallace actually sign his tender? I've been hearing that for several days, and he's conspicuous by his absence.
Well, he's stuck again at the Mississippi airport.
Yeah, there's one negotiation.
Flights are delayed again at the Mississippi airport, man.
All right, how's the running game going to be this year? Who's going to run it?
Well, like I was saying last week, if I was the Pittsburgh Steelers, what I would do is bring – now you got you got Haley as their offensive coordinator. A guy that was successful in Haley's system at Kansas City was Thomas Jones. Thomas Jones is sitting in your living room. I like a veteran running back to come in and show the guys how to be professional. You know, like we said, Willie Parker's not available because he's the tight end coach at West Virginia Wesleyan, making $500 a month. He ain't going to leave that kind of money to come back to the National Football League. So, you know, you got a lot. You have no running backs on their current roster that are healthy that started any NFL games in the National Football League. That's going to be a mistake.
And down on the end there,
Big Mike.
Actually, I was talking to the guy next to Big Mike.
The machine.
You predicted 11-5.
Oh, yeah. How
Even
many times have
even
we
with all
been
these
to-
offensive linemen broken down now,
Well, think
and no
about
running,
it.
no running game.
Max Starks is back. That alone will get him a
That's
3
where
to
the
4
5
wins.
comes from. I understand.
He'll be back, and we've had smoke and mirrors with that offensive line. Kugler, somehow he does a mind meld or something there from Star Trek, and these guys get in the way of people. You got Big Ben freelancing, which now Todd Haley gave him carte blanche. He can just go back there and call all the plays. Even Big Ben mentioned that he did on the 98-yard drive. So I'm hopeful if they can freelance, he can play like Fran Tarkington and run around there and throw a little pass. We got the bubble screen back, Smoking Jim. You know, I was calling for that last year. Who's going to replace Hines? Antonio Brown. He can be the bubble screen guy. Mike Wallace will stretch the field. 11-5. Maybe the Super Bowl, too.
All right, Al. Well, you might have smoke and mirrors, but I got Smoke and Jim, and if he says 8-8, that's what I'm going with. And I'd like to give out my usual disclaimer when we talk about Jim. He doesn't really think that Ben Roethlisberger is the best quarterback in Steeler history. He doesn't really think he's any better than Terry Bradshaw or Joe Gilliam or even Cordell Stewart. He just says that to kind of stir people up a little bit. Chip, you're a big Steeler fan. What do you think this year?
Even though I haven't seen any of the preseason games, only what I've heard, and I still think at 500 this year would be about reaching their limits. I think that the Steelers have major issues to overcome. They've got huge holes in the defense to fill. Harrison isn't playing. He's rehabbing a knee. I think that the other teams in our division have gotten better and we have not.
Well, I got good news. I just got a text from the Steeler organization. The new special team coach is Al Levine, the talking machine.
Whoa, I'll see you guys later.
Congratulations, man.
I'll see you guys later. Let me see that text smoking, Jim. Because you've never been known to lie.
I'll tell you, I don't know if Al will be any good, but he certainly can't be any worse.
Whoa, that's the greatest compliment I ever got from
Can't be any
Mike.
worse than the last guy.
I'm taking that to the bank. Where can I cash
And you
that?
have to
We're supposed to have
appreciate
phones on.
a head coach like Mike Tomlin that has the guts to go ahead and make that move. A couple years too late, but he still made it. And yeah, you got to take your hat off to Mike. Mike Butera, what's your take on the Steelers this year?
My knowledge of football is,
Limited?
well, it's about as much, limited is a good word, but I do have some applause to the Steeler organization I'd like to make. Now, in spite of the fact that I'm a sports reporter, I don't watch sports on television or news shows or ESPN or anything like that, but if I did, a week ago, Jerry Jones and his face came out on a TV show, and he was announcing that this guy's out for this week, or that guy is going to start here, or this guy's going to do that. Jerry Jones is the owner. I think well, my opinion of Jerry Jones is almost like, hey, he could be running the Pirates too. But what I want to shout out to the Steeler organization is this. In my lifetime, it's always been owned by the Rooneys. The Rooneys are a class act. They sit in the back and they let the football people do the football thing. If you ask me right now today, I know there's a Rooney in office. I don't know his name. I applaud the Rooney family as doing the right things when it comes to a major league sports organization. They don't have the guy Jerry Jones with his face like this. You know what I mean? It's a good thing. I love the fact that the Steelers are good for Pittsburgh and the Rooneys are excellent for Pittsburgh. And that's it.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
What was the record going to be? Come on. you
Oh, the
didn't ask.
record.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to do a prediction.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to.
Well, I'm sitting next to the machine, and
got to.
I'm sitting close to the smoker, the smoking smoker. So I'm gonna do it right in the middle. You went 8-8. You went 11-5. I'm gonna go 9-7. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Does that mean does that add up 16? Okay, good. All right. Okay.
Almost.
Yep.
Good, close enough.
Very good.
Thanks, guys. We do have one more special guest to come up. Jim already introduced her a couple of times in the show, so we're going to let him do it one more time.
How in the world did we get her to come here? I tell you what, former model, beautiful young lady. I tell you what, we already said before that she's one of the few boxing analysts on the planet. Fitness, very intelligent, and I tell you what, one of the greatest young ladies that I ever met in my life. And she's also a minister, and we both love Tim Tebow. Everybody put your hands together for Miss Robin Allen, Minister Robin Allen.
How you doing, Rob?
Good evening. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here.
I'm sure you are. Yeah, you know,
I'm happy to be here.
actually, three of the most knowledgeable boxing guys that I know are right here in a row with Claudio, kind of Jim, and myself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, and we'll jump into it from there.
I have 9.5 years in the school system as a secretary. I also did some accounting for the business office until that closed out, and they stuck me back as a secretary again. And so right now I'm going to school to be a teacher. I have a great love for children, for the community, and for sports. And the reason that I have so much love for sports is because it shows teamwork. I mean, you don't have, the only thing that's one-on-one is boxing, which is what we need more of, like Claudia was saying, there's not enough of. And the reason that I'm big on the boxing is because look at all the violence. Every time you turn the news on, somebody has gotten shot in the face, in the leg, somebody's died. I mean, it's all about this gun violence. And, you know, I remember when you just fought. So-and-so's getting in a fight, and nobody fights anymore. They just shoot you and call it a day. And I really believe that boxing should be a sport in the school, simply because it's a one-on-one sport. And I've learned that there are so many angry children. I mean, there's so many things, so many issues, you know, and I just feel like it's a sport, but yet it gets out the frustration. You know, it's healthy for the mind. It gives them, you know, discipline. It does so much, and it can actually even help to bring their grades up. It's almost just like judo, different things like that. Anything that's that one-on-one sport that's going to show any type of to get that frustration out.
Yeah, that's kind of
But
interesting because when you first said it, I was like, okay, yeah, no school's ever going to have a boxing team. On the other hand, there are schools that have shooting teams.
yes.
And that's a fact. There are schools
No, but
that
you know,
have,
the one thing that introducing that in a school is the discipline that comes with the training for boxing and everything, which is probably what a lot of these young children don't have at home, is they don't have, you know, the discipline or a role model to follow after, which, you know, could lead to much better things for them.
Absolutely.
So you've been calling some fights. Who've you been doing that for and with? Jim said you've been announcing some fights.
I have. I've done some
Okay.
commentating with Jim, and I've really
Jim.
enjoyed it. And I've actually asked Jim. I love the children more than I love the older ones because it's just, you know, there's a lot in there. And then if you train them up when they're young, and the Bible says, since he mentioned I was a minister, train up a child in the way in which he should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. So I believe it should start at that youthful age. And so I love to watch them as they're young. To get that discipline in so that as they're growing up, when things, you know, arise, they know how to handle certain situations as opposed to the gun violence, because there's just so much gun violence.
So if you're talking about watching children boxing, then you're probably talking about the Golden Gloves.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us about Jimmy Savetti.
I'm not allowed to talk about Jimmy Savetti. Jimmy Savetti has been a tremendous blessing
Yep.
to all of the children. Very much so. I love Jimmy.
Yeah.
It's all for the kids.
And even in the city of
All for the
Clareton,
kids.
there was a lot of the major community outreach program was funded through Jimmy Savetti. So
He has pretty much kept the Golden Gloves alive here in Pittsburgh. He's for amateur boxing. Jimmy Savetic's probably the go-to guy here, and he has kept his gyms open. He's allowed kids to learn to box, try to keep kids off the street, that kind of thing. As much as we might joke about him now and then,
And we
Jimmy
should
Savetic
invite
is,
Jimmy Savetic and Bill Neal here together. First time we'll see them both in the same place at the same
I have
time.
never seen them in the same place at the same time. I think they're the same person, to be honest.
But Miss Robin, real quick, talk about the Olympics a little bit. I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of Lolo Jones. She is a virgin. I've been looking for one of those. I'll tell you what, please tell us a little bit about what you thought about the Olympics.
What did he just
well,
say?
my biggest highlight was really Gabby Douglas, and that's really who I wanted to talk about because she's a young child, and because her father, you know, and mother were separated and divorced. That's a lot of strain on a child. But that the sport within itself is what kept her. And her mother had enough in her to go allow her to, you know, to be sent away. And look where it brought her. And I say that to say because the community in which I was a secretary is Clareton. And I'm no longer there at this time.
They should close that school.
But it's a lot of violence there. And the inspiration of Gabby Douglas is the fact that there's a lot of single parents. There's a lot of single parents in the city of Clareton, which entails a lot of stress. Being a single parent, the child doesn't get the time that they need or the attention, so they use attention getting in other ways. But that discipline, again, back to that sport of the discipline, that's the main thing. And if she can do it, anybody can do it.
I can vouch for one thing when it comes to Clareton. Somebody actually called the show from Clareton and threatened to shoot Jim. And I can't imagine how anybody could want to shoot anybody on this end of the table. That's just
Tell you what, they
ridiculous.
do have one hell of a football team, though. You know, how many championships have they won in a row?
They had a boxer, I guess it wasn't doing too well, and somebody badmouthed him a little bit. And so they called and threatened to shoot Jim.
You shouldn't take that lightly.
We didn't. We all moved away from him. So what else would you like to tell us?
No, I'm just, you know, the main thing is just the fact of getting together and becoming more team players. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes in as well. There's so many people that just want to be at the top of everything. No one wants to be more, you know, of a team thing. And I'm not saying in sports, in major sports. I'm talking about when you're dealing with youthful and the teams and those types of senses. I think there should be more coaches like Claudio where children are concerned. Honestly, it's the difference between being a coach and getting paid to be a coach, even though he did ask to get paid.
He has to get paid to
And
talk
having
and
the
drink
heart,
water.
even if you do get paid, but really having a heart to do what you're doing. And that's not just with that, it's with anything. If you don't have the heart to do what you're doing, to teach and to train them up in the right way so that they know exactly what they're dealing with, then you have issues.
And I agree with you. When you talk about young people, that touches my heart, because everybody knows that young people are born with 3 fears, only 3 fears. All other fears is learned. The fear of loud noises, the fear of heights, and the fear of gateway.
There goes your credibility.
They might be afraid to go to Gateway.
Come on, Smoking Jim, tell the story how Bethel Park beat Gateway. All right.
Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, but,
Are you welcome
and
to
I
stay up
can't
here with
forget
us?
about Jim. Jim is one of the greatest men in the city of Pittsburgh.
I can
He
vouch
did.
for that. Robin is right. Jim is one of the greatest men in the city of Pittsburgh, and I know because I'm the other one. And I want to apologize in advance to the audience, but I want to go back to Mike Butera because Claudio talked a little bit about the about older baseball players, and he used the words "old school." And Mike had a particular take on the use of the words "old school" when we talked earlier today. I didn't know you had to read it, but
No, but I want. Can you
Yeah,
zoom
they
in on
can't
what
see
this
that.
says
Put
up
it
here?
down.
What it says up here is old school. With all due respect, there's very few people in here besides myself, if any, that are truly old school. To be old school, you have to have a minimum of 150 games under your belt at Forbes Field. Be it baseball, football, the Steelers played there for many, many years. Even the Pitt Panthers used Forbes Field as their home field. I hear old school much too often, and it's from somebody that's 20. You're in your early 20s. Yeah, don't look a day over it. So somebody, a young fellow like such as, with all due respect, Claudio, old school is a term that's used too loosely, like I love my wife. That's you use it loosely, but
Whoa, don't you mean that?
she's not.
You mean it's ubiquitous or something? Is that what you're saying?
I don't use the U word, but she's not. She'll never watch this, so she'll never know. But look at this.
You
Look
can
at
find
this.
it on YouTube.
This is 12 pages that I printed out earlier today because I wanted to get a complete knowledge of the history of Forbes Field. And I'm trying to arrive at exactly when and where old school started, stopped. But there is Smoking. How old are you? You're a young guy too.
Yes, sir.
He's 35.
He doesn't look
just had a
yeah,
birthday.
hey, congrats on a birthday. But too many people use that term old school without even knowing what it means. I think, again, you have to have a minimum of 150, and I do. And I counted them almost literally. Old school is, you're looking at old school, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at old school right here.
Let me
Thank
tell
you
you
very
what,
much. All right. Thanks, Mikey.
I think you're absolutely right. You do have that. Old school is used way too much, and especially by the local media, which everybody that watches the show knows what I think about the local media. We don't have to get back into that. But as far as the 150, you don't have to. 150 games at Forbes Field doesn't make you old school. It just makes you old. I think that old school was more like a frame of mind or an attitude or a way you approach things. But again, a term that's used way too much by yo-yos like, I don't want to mention Ron Cook or Gene Collier's name, so I won't, but there are people in the local media that use that way too much, and in the national media too. A.J. Burnett is not old school. Okay, if he's old school, he wouldn't come to the mound with a bunch of tattoos all over him and stuff like that.
Red guys, he'd have threw it.
Well, I got to interrupt you guys for 1 minute because we do have an old school guy that's here. He made a special visit here tonight with his mother Gloria. Vinny Pellegrino come in here because he gave out the wrong website. He has a great website to check out. Sorry to chase Robin off the stage. that we were getting a little old school on everything, and I just happened to look at Big Mike's paper. What do you have circled here, sir? Can you read that?
Absolutely.
For a second? Just read that.
One.
When you were at this game, now.
No, I wasn't, but I wish I was. On May 25th, 1935, at Forbes Field, a dirt infield, I might add, Babe Ruth, the Bambino, hit the last 3 home runs of his career as his Boston Braves lost to the Pirates 11-7. His last home run cleared the right field stands roof line, the third deck, making him the first player to ever do so. And I think that's the reincarnation of the Bambino right there.
Wait till you hear his story,
Honestly, God,
Big
I
Mike.
thought we were going to get through an entire show without
No, we're
mentioning
at
that
the
Babe Ruth hit his
58-minute
last home run
mark.
here.
I just got it
Jesus.
in. That's hitting one over the roof.
The machine. I love the machine.
And look
This
what he
is
did. He
boring,
circled
God.
this, and he doesn't know me until right now.
Well, I wanted to hit the 715 for you, Al.
Come on,
here.
Bambino.
Ready, guys?
We're,
Ready?
Come on.
We're inside.
There it goes.
Awesome, awesome.
Whoa,
What's
Babe
wrong with
Ruth.
you? Sit down.
That's for Al.
Get out of time.
Hand it to him. There's a miracle behind
There's
it.
I
Babe
was
Ruth.
going to hit it, man.
You know, one thing though, Mike had mentioned that old school is a frame of mind, and I agree with that. To me, it's the passion, it's the heart. For me, I like a little flair in a player. It's the way they wear the uniforms. Like when they have the throwbacks today of the old Pirate uniforms, and they wear the baggy. To me, that's not throwback. So I mean, everybody has their own or definitions of old school. Again, mine is again the passion, caring about winning and losing, like the All-Star game years ago in the '70s. I'm not talking about when Pete Rose knocked over Ray Fosse. They didn't say, well, if the team wins, the National League gets the World Series. I mean, they have to dangle that carrot. It's just a different ball game. And being a coach and a scout and seeing the way now my teams, I'm blessed. I'm very blessed to have good teams, guys that what I mean by good teams is good guys who really care about playing. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Sometimes you just wonder about the passion today.
That's a great point, because I don't know how many times I watch games. You know, I was taught when you played baseball, and I played baseball when I was younger, that you play for 27 outs. And, you know, it doesn't matter how far down you are or, you know, how many games you're back. I mean, I learned more in a season when my team went 1-17. You know, we were 0-17 going into the last game. You know, we didn't have anything to play for, but we all played our hearts out and won the game, and it was like we won the 7th game of the World Series. You know, I see guys now, I was at a Pirate game earlier this year, and we watched, who was it, the Giants just laid down on a Sunday afternoon. They were getting beat 8 or 9 or 10 to 2. And the coach the coach quit, the team quit, and it's like, how can you do that? You're professionals. You play to win. You know, I don't care. You know, it can happen. You can score 10 runs in an inning. I've seen it happen before. What was it, Steve Blass or one of the Pirate announcers one night in Philadelphia said that
Jim
Rooker said that he will walk from Philadelphia
He
to
did.
Pittsburgh if the Pirates lost that game, and they did. You know, and they were winning, but they
27 gazillion to nothing.
yeah, you know, so I mean, you don't give up, and I see that in athletes now, that if things aren't going their way, they throw in the towel, they go sit on the bench, they pout, they
Drink
they
beer
have
and
an
eat
attitude, whatever it is they do, but they don't play to win.
And to me, again, you know, I was at a game a couple weeks ago, and we had very front row right behind home plate. I told they were playing San Diego. I said, can you imagine if we were feet away from a Joe Morgan, a Pete Rose, or a Dave Winfield, or an Ozzie Smith, or a Brett, or a Robbins? I mean, again, for me, as Clemente used to say, for me, I'm the greatest right fielder of all time. For me, I'm very blessed and grateful, and I thank God and my parents every day that I'm doing what I'm doing in baseball. But on the major league level, like I said, I'm sure they tried, I'm sure they care. But for me, okay, I just don't see that aura of a ball player. You know, whenever we used to see a Dave Parker or even an Omar Moreno, who wasn't an all-star, but there was something about those guys.
Yes.
The way they would bat. Jeter, I like Jerry Jeter. He's one of the few guys. There's a few guys out there today. But again, listen to his interviews, and what kind of interview did he get? We played well, they played well, we'll try hard tomorrow, and that's the end of it. There's no Dave Parkers, when the leaves turn brown, I'll be wearing the Triple Crown. There's no guys like that. When Dave Parker played in the All-Star game with the white wristbands and the white shoes and the snatch catches, the Ricky Hendersons, because you can call them hot dogs, but they backed it up.
Yeah,
And again,
Reggie Jackson,
Reggie
the straw that started
how
the
many
drink.
guys,
are like that.
how many guys
Not
would
all.
did you watch, even if he struck out, were as exciting as a Reggie Jackson?
I know.
You know, it's just, to me, the flair. And
Yeah, but you're talking charisma.
charisma.
There's other guys that have played the sport. They were like workmanlike.
Well, but you
Look
don't
at
have
Lou
to have
Gehrig.
a mouth, right? But there was the charisma about him.
Because
You're
what
right,
they're
an it
paying
factor.
for now is they're playing for the paycheck. They're not playing for the love of the game.
Yeah, and those guys got a nice chunk back then. I mean, when perhaps our
Not
fathers
really.
were making 18,000, those guys were making 125, but it's not the difference as it is now.
Richie Hedman used to dig graves
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
off season.
That's right. That's right.
He played the game because he loved it,
Oh, yeah.
not because he was getting rich.
That's right.
Bambino, you better tell us your website so we can end this here. buddy.
Don't
What
throw that.
I was gonna tell.
He got good hands. The Bambino was
Mike.
a pitcher at first.
Well,
At first.
we talked on the phone. I wanted to give my website. There'll be probably a flash of the Babe Ruth program, the autograph I had here a couple weeks ago. At the end of the show, it should pop up. It's www.baberuthprogramanniversary.com. And we were talking about. I'm thinking about maybe doing a deal with Wheaties. I want to put it away. Have a national giveaway in a Wheaties box. We're going to do a 7/14 Babe Ruth commemorative Wheatie box, and some kid's going to win that and find it just like I did. I'm going to work a deal with Wheaties. That's what I'm trying to do now. So,
Well, it'll be a certificate
so,
inside. not
so
the
Smoking
actual
Jim,
thing.
make sure you buy that Wheatie. When you see that box, you better buy it.
Before you get too crazy on this, it'll be a certificate if we work out a deal.
Right.
It won't be the actual program.
And then I'll meet
Because
with
there is
whoever
corruption in society, so you have to be careful. We were just talking about sports and everything else, so be careful there.
And we'll keep that updated, and we're going to have Paul here in a couple weeks. Warhol, he wants to tell his story.
Andy
about-
Warhol's
He's one of
brother.
the last living survivors of the home run and went over to.
We're working on getting him
Ford Field.
here
Wow.
for our show. So he'll tell
We'll be
you.
here in a couple weeks. So,
Okay.
all right,
Thanks, Vinny.
all right.
We'll bring Robin back up for the end. Give her the last 30 seconds. Thanks, Vinny.
Go Vinny.
Thank you for having me back up here, because I was just sitting here thinking, I am the assistant CEO to Clariton Community Outreach Program in Clariton, and I should have mentioned that, and
That's why you're back up.
that's why I'm back up here.
Mention
So anybody that's out there that's listening that wants to be a support to the Clariton Community Outreach Program, our website is not up. It was down, so I can't give a website, but you can contact Smoking Jim Frazier because he's helping to stop the violence, and so we'd appreciate it.
If I was Jim, I'd want to make sure there's no violence in Clareton either, since it's mostly directed at him. Well, thanks a lot for watching. We'll be at the Level 20 Lounge, not
The 17th.
next week or the following week, but on the 17th, actually the third Monday in September. But we'll have a great show for you then. Come on up, and thanks for tuning in. See you next time on Level 20 Sports Line.
This year, 1 in 3 older Americans will fall at home, risking a potentially lethal hip fracture. For information on making your home safer, visit orthoinfo.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.